Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to another card video at my YouTube channel and blog. Today I'm going to be creating a card using brand new products from Simon Says Stamps Good Vibes release. I'm super excited about this release. So many fun summer images, and I'm going to use a few of those stamp sets today. Starting out with the stamp set called Surf's Up, and I'm going to be stamping the very large circular image, and I'm going to stamp it in some Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink since I'll be doing some Copic coloring. Now here's a little blooper for you, but I wanted to include it so I could show you why. Turns out that this stamp, when I put it on my Misty, it had a little bubble right there, and so I had to lift it up and kind of press it back down onto the Misty, and then I was able to stamp it okay. Otherwise you get that kind of black spot right there in the center where there isn't supposed to be anything. So I did stamp it twice, and this is stamping onto some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and it's actually going to be the very front of my card. I'm going to make a shaker card, so I'm going to have the very front be a separate piece of paper. I'm now using the Summer Cuddly Critters stamp set, and these little images of the dog and cat might be familiar to you if you've been around for a while and buying Simon products. There were a few stamp sets with this dog and cat, just plain, and then there was one where they're dressed up like in Halloween costumes, and then now this is the summer version, and I really love this image of the cat mermaid, I guess you could call it, because in this one image I was able to get three of my most favorite things all together. Stars, which explains my Instagram handle, Star of May, because I was born in May and I love stars. Stars, cats, because I have two cats, and I used to have a cat, Manny. You guys, if you've been following me, you know I love cats. I think they're amazing animals, and anyway. And I also love mermaids, specifically The Little Mermaid, Disney's The Little Mermaid. I could talk forever about the movie The Little Mermaid because I love it so much. It's such a pivotal part of my childhood and my absolutely favorite movie from Disney. I really think the movie The Little Mermaid ushered in a renaissance of Disney animation. I don't know if many of you know this, but the Disney Corporation was on the brink of shutting down their animation department before the movie Little Mermaid came out, and like they'd had a series of unsuccessful films, and then they came out with The Little Mermaid, and it was just embraced by the public, and everyone loved it, and the soundtrack and the music was just amazing, and it really turned the whole animation department around. Can you imagine if they hadn't released The Little Mermaid and they got rid of their animation department, how many amazing films never would have been, brought to the public? It's just amazing. And anyway, so The Little Mermaid, beyond just being like, oh, she's my favorite princess, like I resonate with the movie, if that makes sense. So I love this image because I get a mermaid, I get a cat, and I've colored it like my two cats, Sophie and Daphne here, and I also get a star. So it's kind of fun. I really love this image. I'm so glad I was able to do that. And then I've got this fun sun umbrella, and then the little starfish. So I didn't even mention, I'm coloring all of these with Copic markers. The marker colors are on screen if you want to take note, and these are some of my favorite color combinations, so I use these colors quite a bit. In fact, these are the ones that I have refills for my markers. So you'll notice that up at the top of the umbrella I have a little mistake. I started to color that last section red, so I'm going to take a blender, this is the Copic Colors blender, and kind of push that color back into that other red area. It's going to clean it up quite a bit. And I'll actually clean up a little bit around the mermaid as well before I die cut these. So this large circular image from the Surf's Up stamp set, I think is actually intended to be the two lower sections are supposed to be water. The big mound at the center is supposed to be like a beach or sand, and then you have the sky, in the background, but I'm changing it. I'm going to have this be all sand and all of this the bottom, and I'm doing a little bit of a sand texture using that colorless blender to get some dots put back in. But I want this to all be sand, and then I'm going to create a shaker card out of it. So I'm taking a craft knife and I'm very carefully going around that circular area, and then I'm also going to cut right at that sand line, and it's going to cut out a really large shaker area that I'll be able to fill with some blue sequins. I thought that would look so fun, especially behind the mermaid and the umbrella. It would give it a little bit more whimsy and a little bit of sparkle with the sequins. I just thought that would be a really fun way to have a little bit more of an interactive card element, and the entire cards are really fun because of all the images, so I thought it would really complement it. So I've cut out that entire shaker area, and because I use an X-Acto knife and I want it to look just perfect, I'm now going to take a black marker and go around the edge. So the marker I'm using today is a Memento Tuxedo black marker, and I'm going to use the brush tip and just come in and paint the white edges around this cut area. And that's going to make it look like I cut this perfectly and that there are no mistakes. I was actually surprised I was able to cut it out so well. I was kind of worried, but it turned out really well. So now I'm using the coordinating dies for the Summer Cuddly Critters stamp set. I ran that through my die cutting machine, and I have these 3 little images that I've colored and die cut. I'm going to prep my card base before I make the shaker area. I've got some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White, the same color of cardstock as my shaker area, except this is the 110-pound version. It's just a little bit more sturdy. Taking some clear window plastic or acetate, and I'm cutting it down so that it's the right size to cover this entire open window. And I'm going to adhere it onto the back of this window piece using some Ranger Multimedia Matte Adhesive. And I'll press that down, and I'll kind of set it aside for a minute so it can dry. And then I'm going to worry about the actual shaker area. Now, I did a video a couple weeks ago showing a really easy shaker. I'm going to use the same techniques here. I've taken some foam tape and folded it back on itself so it's 2 layers thick, and then I'm trimming it down so it's a little bit more narrow. It will just be a little bit easier to manipulate the shape of the foam if you trim it down so it's more narrow. And I'm going to take the release paper off of both sides, and then that allows me to bend the foam tape and adhere it around this round shape. So I'm going to take the foam tape all the way around, and this is an even better example of how you can manipulate the foam, because I'm going to have it go around this sharp corner and go up over that hump of sand too. So it's a really easy way to create a shaker card, to create the whole shaker area without a lot of frustration. Especially if you're going to be doing like beads or something within the shaker, you don't want any gaps in the foam tape. So if you do it this way, the only gap you really have to worry about is where it starts and stops. To finish out this panel, I added some additional foam tape around the corners and on the bottom. These are also 2 layers of foam tape deep. I'm using the Lagoon Sequins mix from Little Things by Lucy's Cards, and I'm dumping in quite a bit because I'm not putting any color behind these sequins, so I want the color from the sequins to really fill that entire area. I then took the card base and I lined it up very carefully and pressed it down onto all of that foam tape. So this is going to trap all of those sequins inside and create the entire shaker area. So I'm going to flip this over, and you can see how all those sequins and beads still move around within that area. I then adhered the images that I colored earlier using some foam adhesive. And for the greeting, I took some black cardstock. This is some, I think it's black onyx cardstock from Gina K Designs. And I prepped the area with an anti-static powder tool. And then I stamped this little itty bitty greeting from another greeting stamp set from the release. And it just says, what does it say? Can't remember. Time to get away. That's what it says. I added on some white embossing powder. This is some alabaster embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. Tapped off the excess, and then I added some heat so that the powder melted to a nice smooth finish. To cut it out, I used the smallest circle from the Nested Circles die set from Simon, and I just used a little bit of micro pour tape to hold that in place while I ran it through my die cutting machine. Put some foam tape behind that greeting as well, and then press that down onto the card front. And then I finished it off with that little starfish. To finish off that black greeting area, I did take a number 10 Jelly Roll white pen and went around and add some dashed lines just because there was a lot of space around the greeting and it looked like the greeting was just too small for the circle. So I wanted to add some detail around the edge so it looked a little bit more finished and sized correctly. So that's the card for today. Check out the entire Good Vibes release over at simonsaysstamp.com. I'll have links down below so you can go right over and do some shopping. Thanks for watching today. I'll be back very soon with some more inspiration from the release.